Please rise as you are willing and able for our hymn from the Great Hymnal, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
So we're going to sing this as a round. The first time we'll sing it through all together. And the second time this side will start, Bev will lead you. And then we'll sing, this side will come in second, and we'll sing it through twice as a round.
Good morning. We bid you welcome. In this community of racial inclusion, we make space for what you believe and what you love. Your whole self is welcome here. In this community of open-hearted inclusion for all people, we do not expect you to think a certain way or restrict yourself to one set of beliefs. We only ask that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. We are so grateful that you are here. My name is Helen Smith, and I am your service leader today. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us, whether enjoying the service in person or watching online at home. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we invite you to join us for coffee and conversation downstairs in our meeting hall. Please take a moment now to silence your phones, but we encourage you to share your presence with us on social media. We have a few announcements today. Today's Caring Sunday collection is for results. the organization we support with our letter writing campaigns to fight disease and hunger. Yvonne Weinborny will tell us a little bit more about the results work later in the service. You can use the envelope you received with your order of service from the ushers to donate by cash or check, or use the QR code on the envelope to donate directly online. The Social Justice Committee would like to announce that we are a Good Trouble congregation again this year. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's a big deal. Come celebrate with the Social Justice Committee on Tuesday, January 28th at 7 p.m. in Adams Hall. Everyone is welcome. We will have snacks and drinks, then join the other Good Trouble congregations online at 8 o'clock for national recognition. We deserve to be proud of the work we have done and the community we share. Please join us. On Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. in Adams Hall, there will be a workshop to learn about Esperanto, I had to practice saying this, Esperanto, an international language. This Friday evening in Adams Hall, we will hold our monthly Crafters in Community. Bring any unfinished craft project you have to work on and join others in community and conversation in this open forum space. All craft styles and all people are welcome to join. If you have any questions, please reach out to Liz Knight. Please join us for the Gold Plate Dinner on Saturday, February 15th in Adams Hall at 7 p.m. A link to the reservation form was sent in the Friday e-blast. In addition to reserving your place, you can view the menu, make your selection of vegetarian or non-vegetarian soup and entree. The cost is $50 per person, payable prior to the dinner. Please see Karen Duguay or Linda Brown to pay. We look forward to sharing this special meal with you. We will be having a used fundraiser, a shoe fundraiser, beginning in mid-February. Please start saving your gently worn shoes. Also ask your friends and family to help. Remember to check the UUCF website or emails for other announcements about upcoming events. We are Unitarian Universalists who put love in the center of our lives. We light this chalice today to help us imagine a new way and practice building the future we hope for. Please join me in reciting our UUCF mission statement, which can be found in your order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, and live with compassion. Our RE coordinator, Argo Kramer, is going to lead us in the message for all ages, after which we will sing the children to their classrooms with the hymn number 414 as we leave this friendly place from the Gray Hymnal.
Hello, my name is Argo Kramer. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns, and I, as announced, am your RE coordinator. Children, the pictures are up here today, but if you want to come up here to sit and get a closer look, you're always welcome to. So today, we're going to be reading The Power of Words, written by Megan Axel. I chose this book because, as we know, we've been discussing the theme of story, creating our own story, and one of the pieces I find very important in that process is being mindful of the words we are using to describe other people as well as ourselves. So I'll start with the foreword. You are about to read a great book that reminds all of us, grown-ups too, that we have the power to choose our words. In our ever-increasingly fast-paced world, our thoughts can honestly slip out as words. Mean thoughts become mean words that have the power to fuel mean actions. Through metacognitive practice, we can train our thoughts and tame our words. By evaluating the quality and impact of our words, we make progress towards smart choices in the future. Choosing our words carefully will give us calmer minds, kinder hearts, and maybe even help us make more friends. Because when we treat ourselves and others with kindness, we train our brains to make choices that make our minds, hearts, and bodies feel good. Let's begin. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and let it out through your mouth. This is the first step in training your mind. In the pages ahead, you can choose to learn how to change your mind and words for the better. Remember, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes progress. We can always get better at anything we practice, including using kinder words. May this book always be a reminder to be your best self in thoughts, words, and actions. Your words hold great power, so use them with care. Don't let empty promises fly through the air. Don't promise your friends you'll be very discreet and then blab all their secrets to those you meet. When your words are set free, they will surely be heard, and your friends will find out you went back on your word. So stay true to your word. Always mean what you say. You will gain your friends' trust if you act in this way. And be careful with rumors. They're often untrue. And the damage they bring can be hard to undo. If you hear others gossiping and spreading false news, give suggestions for other great topics to choose. When a friend makes you feel like you're walking on air, take a moment to tell them just how much you care. If you see someone working from day until night, you should praise their hard work, make their spirit shine bright. When you compliment others, you'll surely feel great. So just think for a moment about their best trait. Then be sure that you tell them, don't keep it inside. Go release all those compliments. Shout them with pride. Now, the words that you use with yourself also do matter. Be gentle. Don't put yourself down in your chatter. If you feel insecure and have negative thoughts, try to think of your strengths. Do not focus on faults. One important last thing that we must not forget is that words written down might become a great threat. So be careful and thoughtful with words that you write, because not every thought in your head should take flight. So be sure that you use all your words with intention, and when in doubt, words of love are the best ones to mention. And that is going to conclude our message for all ages for today. Children, if you want to rise, we're having Children's Chapel in Adams Hall today, okay? And our arches, if you look in your pew and you have a rainbow arch, you can give it to the person across from you to hold up in the air that our children can walk under.
Perfect. Please join us as we sing number 414 as we leave this friendly place from the Gray Hymnal. We make space every Sunday for authentic and vulnerable sharing, which helps to build this congregation into beloved community. We invite you to share what's going on in your life, to name your feelings, and the people in your heart in need of prayer, good energy, best wishes, and other help. You are welcome to come pick up a stone or stones from the table, infuse or charge it with your joy or sorrow, and place it in the singing bowl, where its energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. If you'd like to verbally share something important in your heart, please come up and speak directly into the microphone. All are welcome to participate in any of these ways. We light 3 candles for the intentions that rest in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, one for the joys, one for the sorrows, and one for the strength of the gathered community that can support you and bring you peace.
Let us take all our spoken and unspoken joys and sorrows into our hearts, into our bodies here in this space. Many of you have been coming here for a while. Many of you, this is your first Sunday. I am so glad to see all of your faces. Let's take a deep breath in. I hate to say these words out loud, but last Monday, the new president was sworn in. The next day, there was a prayer service at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., presided over by the Right Reverend Marianne Edgar Buddy, the Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Washington. Bishop Buddy's sermon called for unity, humility, and mercy for those who are now scared and suffering. She was immediately attacked by people with a different set of values, including, we know, the president. Many of us who agree with everything she said had our own reactions of hoping that we could be or will be as brave as she was on Tuesday. It is a sad day indeed when a call for mercy is considered brave. My colleague, C.B. Beal, offered this prayer for us in response to Bishop Buddy's sermon for when we are thinking, gosh, I wish I could be like her, or somebody else in our minds that we think that they are so much further along the path. We too can be brave. So please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation as we consider the events of last week and how things are going to continue to unfold. I'm going to use the word I, and I hope you take that in for yourself. May I model my resistance and bravery on Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy as I show my communities how I am present with and have the backs of all of those directly targeted by current oppressive actions. May I speak truth to power, even if my voice shakes. I make mistakes, and I feel scared and awful. May I remember that Bishop Buddy has been intentionally working her whole life toward this kind of leadership as part of her calling. She is not setting a bar, but showing the way. I, too, can be brave and strong. May I remember that whatever action I might take can be inspired by the kind of modeling she provided, but it will be the fortitude I can gather from my resilience, my community's support, and the leadership of community members near me who will help me figure out what I am called to do and be in this time. May I remember there are so many others among us who have prepared for a lifetime and are leading as well perhaps without this week's spotlight, but with experience, commitment, and wisdom. May I realize that in the absence of having worked my whole life, but I also know that some of you have, toward knowing how to tell the truth to power right in its face, I may need some scaffolded skills. May I spend as much time as necessary learning new ways to lean into who I am called to be at this time, so that I too can be effective at whatever is my task. May I lean into the learning. May I remember when it is hard, when I make mistakes or accidentally cause harm in the process, that it took time to learn all that I know how to do now. It took time to learn how to sew, knit, plant, drive, play a sport, raise children, or do my job. And so it will take time to learn this new skill. May I remember that it is in the identification and correction of mistakes that learning moves forward. May I responsibly accept the coaching and instruction from those who know better. May I realize that having opinions and wisdom are not the same, and turn to those whose opinions are built upon the knowledge and experience that creates wisdom. As I scaffold myself and build my skills to be effective in this time, may I remember that this level of resistance, which is likely a combination of beginnership from wherever we are, followership, and humility, it may be a level up skill for me. That could be true for all of us, wherever we are. We are beginning and continuing to live in scary times. I'm not going to sugarcoat that or pretend like it's different than it is. But we can welcome the learning, we can welcome growth, and we can know when it is our turn to be brave and to stand in the face and say something directly when it is needed. Please join me in singing number 346 in your gray hymnal from your seat. Come sing a song with me.
Yvonne Wyborny is going to share about our Caring Sunday charity.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne, and a lot of you have signed letters in the past down in coffee hour. And all of that information came from Results. I've been a volunteer with Results for over 25 years. And I've seen what a difference our voices can make. And as you're probably aware, this is a really critical time. The purpose of Results is to end hunger and poverty in this country and around the world. And we do that by establishing relationships with our members of Congress. And your letters are backup for us. And so we work to do things, in the US, we work for adequate nutrition, stable housing, and work to end child poverty. And we do that by working to expand the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, and we also have been working to, in the House, they introduced a bill last session that would have cut SNAP, the food stamp program, by $30 billion over the next 10 years. And SNAP is such a lifeline. It's so important for low-income families. And on the global side, we work to support things like fighting diseases of poverty, supporting maternal and child health, and fighting diseases like HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria. So, and you've signed letters to support the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, and malaria, which has saved 65 million lives already. We also lobby for the President's AIDS Initiative, which has saved 25 million lives. So just asking you to support Results so we can continue doing our work. And just appreciate all your support. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Yvonne. I have a reading now from Kristen Collins. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of this congregation. You may also give online via the QR code on the back of the order of service. Thank you. Please join me in reciting the offertory blessing that can be found in your order of service. To the work of creating beloved community within and beyond these walls, we dedicate ourselves in our offerings. Our reading today comes to us from the rocket scientist and author Ozan Varol and is titled, How Invisible Stories Hold Us Back. Last week, I was in London to keynote a private event. October in London doesn't exactly scream sunshine. It was cold, gray, and rainy, the kind of weather that makes most people stay in and curl up under a blanket. But no one in London seemed to care. People were out in droves. Crowds gathered outside pubs, pint glasses in hand. Restaurants were packed, even the outdoor patios. People huddled under umbrellas or under heaters, but were still out there fully alive. That made me think about the stories we tell ourselves and how powerful they are. People aren't born hating the rain. To a kid, rain isn't a problem. It's an opportunity. They stomp in puddles, smear mud on their hands, and laugh through the mess. But after hearing, you can't go out, it's raining, or get out of the mud, enough times from adults, they start to believe it. Rain is gross. Stay inside. Once that belief takes root, it's no longer just raining outside, it's raining inside your head too. What happens if we rewrite that story? What if instead of saying, it's raining, you better stay in, we say, what a beautiful rainy day. Let's go outside and have some fun. This isn't just a hollow affirmation. It's about experimenting with a different story, putting on a coat, stepping out into the drizzle, and just seeing what happens. You might discover you love the sound of rain hitting the leaves, or the way everything smells richer, like the whole world just got a reset. And it's not just about the rain. We all have stories we live by that aren't fixed truths. They're just old scripts we've been following without realizing it. If you tell yourself travel is exhausting, you'll only notice the hassles, the delayed flights, the cramped seats, and miss the little joys along the way. If you tell yourself you're awkward in social settings, you'll tense up before conversations even begin, missing moments that could have been easy and fun. The point isn't to force yourself to love every rainy day or magically turn into an extrovert. It's about creating space to question the stories you've been living by and experiment with something new. You're not committing to anything forever, you're just saying, what if? When you play with the stories you've been telling yourself, you realize they're just that, stories. And if you don't like the story, you can change the story. Don't change everything all at once. Just crack the door open. Put on a raincoat. Step outside. See what the world feels like when the rain has just fallen. And see what you feel like. The rain isn't going anywhere, but maybe that old story is. And who knows? You might just find yourself outside, pint in hand, loving every drop.
I gotta say, it feels kind of weird in the space where, like, what we do in community is about, like, I am fully aware that all of you have access to the news every single day. I don't need to tell you that the world is on fire. And we are also here for each other. And so one of the ways that I see part of what a religious community, a faith community is about is helping us build our own inner strength and our community strength for how do we be in this world? I mean, no matter who is the president, no matter what the administration is, this is what we do for and with each other. And so, no matter what, we're going to continue doing that. So I liked that reading about changing our mindsets about the rain and trying to imagine a time, because most of us are far too old to remember the early days of experiencing rain and mud puddles. We can more easily call up telling children to stop it, but we have a hard time getting back to that whole set where this was something new for us, what it would be like to actually kind of reframe the story we've always told ourselves about being cold and wet, perhaps muddy. what would it be like to go back to that place of wonder and awe? It's hard to do. It takes some effort, but we can if we're willing to kind of change that story a little bit. So we wish that we could be like children. So many times we're like, I just wish I could have that again. But maybe we can if we're willing to. It takes some practice, but it takes a little bit of being willing to play, be a little bit different, be willing to take risk and experiment. So I have a confession that probably won't surprise many of you. For those of you who have been here since May of 2023, and for those who have been with me over this journey, have learned that I can be pretty like black and white about some things. And so the reality is that I have a hard time watching movies that require a high degree of suspension of disbelief. Have you ever watched a movie with somebody like that? Where I'm watching a movie with Michelle, my wife, and I'm like, well, that couldn't happen. Like, we know, because we used to live in New York. We lived in New York for 3 years, and it's kind of ruined it for me for watching movies about anything set in New York, because I'm like, they did not get from this point to that point in 5 minutes. That did not happen. And so all of that is gone, because like now I just can't do that anymore. It's like, okay, this is the story. They have the story. It's gonna be okay. And so like I have to like really work on like, okay, this is for whatever reason they need the story to go this way, even though I know that did not happen, because you would be on the subway for an hour getting from here to there or longer. So, but I know that I can enjoy myself more if I can let go of that need for everything to make sense or be right. You know, have you ever experienced that, like, for yourself, noticing, this just doesn't make sense, it has to be this way. But if we can, in those moments, go, okay, I don't know what the outcome's gonna be, it doesn't have to make sense, but what if just now I can let this go? We can truly let that go. I personally believe that for me, this was a trauma response from my childhood that was very much about right and wrong, black and white. And that was from a very fundamentalist religion world that I grew up in that was absolutes. So it's taken me a long time, even as an adult, even though like I came to Unitarian Universalism in 2005, and I remember a sermon that the minister there gave about ambiguity. And so there are a lot of, I was with this particular minister for a while, and sometimes the sermons that stick out are the ones that you don't agree with, right? So this one I was like, what is he talking about? And it took me a long time, but I was like willing to stick with it. Like, I don't know what this guy is saying. But I've finally been able to get clearer of like being able to be free of not having the absolutes, and how the absolutes keep us so boxed in to what we think has to be right that we can't see other possibilities. So as an adult, I can see how not being able to suspend disbelief and imagine other possibilities has actually been a detriment to my life at times, or in relationships, because it just cuts you off. It takes effort on my part to do this, but I know that without trying to imagine other ways of being, to change the story I carry about myself, because, I mean, all of us we've inherited stories from other people, things that our parents told us, you are this, or your teacher. Sometimes it's a good thing that a teacher said to them, right? But sometimes, especially a negative story, because we've been trained to carry the negative. We've been trained to notice the negative first, and we hold on to the negative far more. So we have to be able to let go of that. And it takes a lot of effort to rearrange that. But if I had not the ability to notice like some other way of being, I would still be at a job in North Carolina that was okay, but it didn't serve who I am as a person, because I couldn't. It took me a while in different stages of my life where there have been like blocks, like, I'm in this space and I can't figure out how to get out. And then eventually something shifts, and something shifts, and then something else shifts. but it's the holding out for, there is something else here. Haven't figured out what it is, but I'm just going to keep staying in it because I know that there's something else is going to happen. But part of that takes being willing to change the stories of who we think we are and stepping into something new that we just can't even possibly imagine. Like, what could it possibly look like? We don't know. But we have to, what I think is like we imagine it first before we actually get to the thing. And then eventually you're doing it and you're like, oh, this is now what we do. And you forget that there was a time when you didn't do that, right? And eventually we just move into this because we've created the new story or the new identity for ourselves. Stories are clearly very powerful. The stories we tell about ourselves to others, because, people believe, they tend to believe what we tell them about who we say we are, and so they're going to now take that as this is who this person is. And sometimes when you've done that, then now there's a story that they have about you, that you're kind of now stuck in that box. The stories we tell about ourselves to ourselves are also very powerful. And all of that impacts the way we treat each other and ourselves as individuals and as a community. Words are powerful. Now, I'm not gonna say like it's some kind of magical thing, and at the same time, listening to Argo's story earlier, I saw a lot of nods of recognition, right? Of this, especially about like giving compliments or not getting involved in rumors or that kind of stuff. We all know that words have meaning and have power in our lives. I think of it in terms of our own faith formation, or what I call our UU, or Unitarian Universalist identity development, which takes time. When I tell people about Unitarian Universalism, I tell them I could give you a bunch of books. I mean, zilch, like so many books. But Unitarian Universalism is experiential. Like you have to stay in it for a while to actually get it. So that's why it takes a while to like be able to stay in this space of, I don't know, do I like these people? Like, what is this? And be willing to like have all your stuff come up against people who may be different from you, or maybe they make you uncomfortable in some way, but you're still called to, I want something new. I want a place where I can be my whole self. And be willing to stay in that space even when it's a little bit scary. And for me, that is part of our faith development process. And like in another couple months, we're going to be talking about trust. And this is what we do. We're always building trust, building relationship together. People are drawn to this community. But like me, they have experienced religious trauma, or they are strongly discouraged by others to not get involved in any organization that has the appearance of religion. Like as some of you have told me that when you talk to your family and friends about like, what is this thing you're doing on Sunday morning? Like what? So it takes a lot of courage, I think, for people to repeatedly show up because there's so much focus in our world, especially where we are geographically. In some parts, when I lived in North Carolina, you better be able to say you went to church somewhere, right? But here, as far as I experienced the area, not so much. It's not so much about that. So what it means is that all of you are specifically focusing on being here on purpose. I think that takes a lot of very much intentional. We don't do shame, manipulation, or guilt here. And so that means you're choosing, this is the place, these are my people. How am I going to impact this? So I wanted to talk a little bit about this experiment we've been doing here with Farmington. And for those of you who are new, some of you are new and have arrived today and probably don't know some of what this kind of an experiment we've been doing. I tell people Unitarian Universalism is, and especially our congregations, are an ongoing experiment. And can people who are different build relationship and community together? I don't know, we'll find out. We just keep at it. So what we've been doing is kind of an experiment with Northwest UU, which is in Southfield, and First UU in Detroit. And so about a year ago, they invited us to, they invited the Farmington congregation to go to a service that the two of them were leading together because those two congregations have joined together. So they invited us to join them. And so that was our first time. We stepped out and went, I don't know, how is this gonna go? But maybe we can create a new story about what does it look like to have three congregations trying something out. Heck, if I know it's gonna happen, but we showed up. So we all came and we've been experimenting. We've been playing and trying things out and seeing what happens. So at First UU Detroit, they begin their services with Reverend Julie saying, gathering together in community is an act of rebellion against isolation and hopelessness. And what do we say? And the response from the congregation is, we are rebels for hope. You want to give that a try? We are rebels for hope. Yes, because this definitely is, like, choosing to come here is a rebellion against isolation and hopelessness. We are determined to create a new story that says we are not going to isolate ourselves from each other. We are not going to live in hopelessness. We're going to notice that, but we're not going to stay there. Now, we have been partnering kind of, I would say we're still very much on the ground floor with First UU and Northwest for close to a year. And those of you who attended the Christmas Eve service or last week's service are very aware that First UU Detroit is experiencing something problematic in a Michigan winter. Their boiler is out. The sanctuary at First UU has no heat. That's a big problem. They are working to address that, but in the meantime, they knew it was important to the Detroit UU community to have those specific services in the city of Detroit. Like sometimes you look at a problem and go, well, what am I trying to accomplish? What is the end goal? How are we doing this? What is the need here? They knew that it had to be in the city of Detroit. So what did they do? Reaching beyond theological differences, they reached out to First Congregational Church and asked if they could use their space. Oh, and by the way, can we bring 2 other congregations with us? Thankfully, the answer was a resounding yes. Now, I'm not going to pretend that both of those services were smooth sailing and everything went perfectly. I mean, last week, we forgot a whole set of our hymnals. But, we made it do. However, for the sake of relationship building, we had patience with each other. We tried to maintain a sense of humor. We showed up in support of each other. And I gotta tell you that the combined choir between this congregation and Northwest and First U is freaking amazing. They are amazing. And the music that Diana and Todd Ballou, their music director, do together, their duets, they rock. So it is absolutely amazing what we can create together because of being willing to create a new story. Because First UU, Detroit, is able to see that obstacle of the no heat, which is, clearly an obstacle. I'm not going to say like we should go sit in their sanctuary in the cold. And yes, not having heat in December and January is a really big deal. They have served the members of the Detroit congregation and helped us all to take new risks and create a new story. Before these 2 congregations last year invited us to join them, UU congregations in this geographic area were siloed and isolated. There was very little cross-congregational interaction. We are clearly still on what I would call the tiniest ground floor of imagining what it would look like for these 3 congregations, and probably more. Sometimes you see in the e-blast or the magnet where I put things that I see that are happening in Grosse Pointe or Brighton or other places, because these walls, they're just walls. Like, we don't have to be separated from each other. Like, how can we reach across? It's not necessary. Now, like any relationship, it requires being willing to have difficult and awkward conversations. How many of you have had a difficult or awkward conversation in a long-term relationship? Yeah, everybody. It's not fun, it's not easy, but you gotta be able to say, you know what, I don't think this thing went so well, or I wish we had communicated this better, or, you know, this hurt my feelings maybe, and then you stay in the relationship because, like, that's the point. It requires being able to stay in there. It also means knowing when to have boundaries because, like, I'm not gonna say let's tear down these walls because clearly we want walls. And when to ask ourselves, when we feel ourselves pushing up against a rigid belief about what we can or can't do, is that really true? Is it really true that the suburbs and the city can't work together? I know it's been a long-standing story, and I've learned a lot about the history of this whole general area and things that have happened regarding votes or taxes or whatever, but we have an opportunity to try to, like, let's see what happens. Is it really true that our different styles and temperaments are an obstacle to working together? I honestly don't know the answer to these questions, but what I do know is we won't know if we don't try. Like a kaleidoscope, I try to look at obstacles from several angles. Sometimes you imagine an obstacle and you just turn it a little bit, and maybe you see a different version that you just hadn't seen before. When I personally have moments of frustration, and believe me, it hasn't always been, it's not just, oh, this is fun and wonderful, I ask myself, am I or are we better off completely on our own? Are we? And for me, personally, the answer is no. I personally believe that living my UU faith is not just when it's comfortable, but when I'm worried. It means paying attention to that fear, but not letting the fear run the story. This congregation itself wouldn't even exist except for the people back in the 1840s wanting to create a group for themselves and others who thought of religion differently. While this room looks familiar to the founders, you know, these pews look all the same, they would have no idea. I mean, can you imagine? Like, we are right now live streaming on YouTube and Facebook Live. I mean, that did not exist. And yet, because of them, we are. I wanted to think about some ways that our stories impact our congregations, and thinking about how some of our old stories for this congregation have impacted our ability to remain open and possibilities that we haven't yet seen. Last year, we did a new minister kickoff when I started here in the fall of 2023, and we did a history wall workshop around this time last year. And we've done some looking at our stories, and hopefully, with this theme this month and some thinking more of what would it be like to try out new possibilities? Just because something has always been done a certain way, and we know those are the words that kill every idea. If somebody, like, the response back is, but we've never done that, or this has never been attempted before, or we tried it before and it failed, that ends the story, doesn't it? But what if we could just try the possibility of putting on our imagination hats, being those children going out in the rain and having fun in the mud and being back to wonder and enjoyment here together. So in a moment, in fact, if the choir wants to already come up, we are all going to sing together this song called I Am Becoming. Excuse me, it's called Becoming. Now, I first heard this song when I was at a retreat last fall with the author, Mary Gregolia. And so she taught us this song, and we all sang it ourselves, we sang it together, and we looked at each other. And if you look at the lines, the first line is, I am who I'm becoming. The next line is, you are who you are becoming. And the final line is, we are who we are becoming. When we get to line 2 and 3, I encourage you to look around at each other and give the affirmation to someone else. You are who you are becoming. And we, all of us, we beyond who we can even imagine, are who we are becoming. Thank you.
Quick notes.
Speak into the microphone.
Couple quick notes as we sing this. It's here on your order of service. After the last line of every verse, there's a repeat there, so we repeat that last bit. You can see that starting with the third staff. And then in between every verse, you see at the bottom line, there's a line of rests. In between every verse, the choir does a little bit of an interlude before we start the next verse.
I
Unitarian, let's start again. We are Unitarian Universalists who put love at the center of our lives. As we go out into the world, let us remember to imagine a new way and practice building the future we hope for.
Grandfather